But I'll tell you this, the less grammar you have, the more distorted the language would be, especially when you speak. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah wa ba'd. Now, when we're studying Arabic, many of us try to focus more on vocabulary, and maybe sometimes you'll find also, on the other hand, a teacher, they focus more on grammar and they don't give a balance. Lakin, however, you notice that when you're studying, you need more vocabulary than grammar, and then later on you build up on the grammar. Then you reach to a position where, when you have enough vocabulary, grammar exceeds vocabulary, because grammar is of extreme importance. Now, what's happening today is that many of us literally, and you find that a lot are advocating for more vocabulary than grammar itself. But I'll tell you this, the less grammar you have, the more distorted the language would be, especially when you speak, and mainly when you read as well. It's not even speaking alone. You can't limit it down to that. Why so? Because when you're reading and you don't have any grammar, especially when you're reading with no harakat, you're going to be confused and you wouldn't be able to spot the difference. I promise you on that. Another example is, for example, when you're speaking, you wouldn't be able to literally to explain what you're trying to say. Maybe someone did something and you wouldn't be able to say and articulate that they did it. Rather, you would say that something happened to them. And that is very wrong. And you notice that Arabs used to reprimand their own peers when it comes to speaking Arabic, their own people. And there's a famous a man known as Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi. This man would literally do away with people that made a mistake in their language, even if it was an error. It is said that if he used a word in the morning, he would not, basically in that day, he would not use that same word until the next day. Basically, he does not repeat himself. Simply put, he does not repeat that same word. That's how good his Arabic was. And you notice, if you made a grammatical mistake, that would be the end of your world and your life. That's how he was. But you see from there that nahaw literally is of importance to a level where Umar ibn Khattab radiyallahu anh, when he found a man and heard a man making a grammatical mistake, he became so angry that he admonished him, he punished him for that. Bear that in mind. You could find someone making a mistake. He would rather have someone make a mistake in a judgment rather than having someone make a mistake in the language. You end up finding someone say, "Anna Allah bari'un min al-mushrikina wa rasulih." There was a man that said that. And the Sahaba, they jumped and said, "A'udhu billah." Why so? And I forgot exactly which Sahaba it was. But why did he jump? If I'm not wrong, it might be Ibn Umar. He jumped because this person said a word of kufr. And Allah, that indeed Allah is further away from the non-believers, the mushrikeen, and His Messenger. A'udhu billah, of course. Whereas Allah did not mention that. He said, "Anna Allah bari'un min al-mushrikeen wa rasuluh," meaning Allah and His Messenger, they are further away and far away from whom? From the non-believers who have defied and denied Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Now, let me give you a simple example in this lesson so that you see how important grammar is and how much you need it rather than just focusing on a lot of vocabulary. This is an example. There's something called in grammar, basically in Al-Ajur Rumiyah, simply put, Al-Asma'ul Khamsa. Like if you go further, the ulama, they provide us, if you go further down the line, if you read Qatrun Nada, if you read Alfiyat ibn Malik, and beyond that, you notice that they say it's Al-Asma'ul Sittah. What does that mean? An Asma'ul Khamsa, the 5 special names, the 5 specific names. These names are specific and they are literally put together as an entire topic. And some as you move on, they put together as 6. They put them together as 6 and not 5. What are they? Abu, Akhu, Hamu, Fu, and Dhu. Now, I don't want you to focus on the last 3. Hamu, Fu, and Dhu, don't focus on those 3. I just want you to focus on the most common of all, Abu and Akhu. Abu and Akhu. What do they mean? Abu means father. Akhu means brother, simply put. But then grammatically, this is how you will find them. Listen to this carefully. It doesn't just come as Akhu, it comes as Akha and Akhi as well. And then you find as Abu, Aba, and Abi. And I'll give you simple examples from the Quran. I'll give you a simple example from the Quran so you see how important grammar is. Now look, in our previous class, maybe if you look up here, there's a card that might pop up. You look at that, you follow the class, and you will see that we try to provide something very, very beautiful that you find in Al-Arabiyyatu Bayna Yadayk. In Al-Arabiyyatu Bayna Yadayk, in one of the conversations, you find that the conversation go as هذا أخي هو مدرس. This is my brother. He is a teacher. هذا أخي. We use the example of Surah Sad. In Surah Sad, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says in regards to Dawood alayhi salam, when those two disputers came to him, they were arguing between one another. One of them said, Inna hadha akhi. Indeed, this is my brother. This is my brother. Now the ya used, akhi, is not the one that we said as akha and akhu and akhi. That's not what we're talking about. It's different. And I'll explain to you this in a minute. Bear with me. You notice the same pattern, same phrase, هذا أخي. Allah uses it in Surah Yusuf, and He says, وَهَذَا أخي. And this is my brother. And this is my brother. Now what's the difference between the akhi that we're talking about grammatically with this akhi over here, although it's all grammar, but it's different. There's something called pronouns. There's something called pronouns. And what are pronouns? Pronouns are those that which you use to define something belonging to someone or something happening to someone, depending on where you use them. And that's the most simplest of definition I'll give you. I don't want to make it technical. It's not the actual definition. I will give you this simple definition so that you can understand what I'm talking about. So let's say, for example, you want to say his book. You would say kitabuhu. If you want to say your book, for a male, you will say kitabuka. If you want to say your book for a female, you would say kitabuki, مثلا. In this case, if you want to say my brother, you would say akhi. If you want to say my book, you would say kitabi. You would say it like that. As simple as that. It's not technical. Look at how grammar comes in handy. You must learn grammar. Look. Akhi, the ya over here intended is not the ya that we want to talk about according to the grammarians there that we just mentioned first. Now this one that we're talking about is the pronoun ya. Akhi, my brother. It's similar to saying kitabi. Kitabi, like that. But this is what happens. If you want to use the other pronouns, مثلا, the other pronouns such as your brother for the male or the female, مثلا, or you want to say his brother, akhuhu, okay, then it would happen to be like this. Let's use Abu. Okay, Abu. Abuhu, his father. Abahu, his father. Abihi, his father. Same thing, but different. Abuhu, Abahu, Abihi. The ya keeps on repeating. You notice? Ya, alif, waw. Abuhu, Abahu, Abihi. From the 5 special nouns that you have. Look at this now. Why is grammar important? You need to know the patterns and spotting, okay, this means brother, this means brother, this means brother, this means brother, this means father, this means father, this means father. Not similar to when you say Abi, my father. This is different. Because Allah says in the Quran as well, Irji'u ila abikum. Abikum. Look at the word abikum. The word abi is still used, meaning father. Kum is the plural pronoun. We haven't mentioned the plural pronoun. You notice that it says what? Abikum, your father. Your father. Allah says that. Another example that I can give you. For example, like akhu, the word akh, brother. When you have these other pronouns being used rather than the ya itself, meaning akhi, my brother. Notice this. One verse combines 2 types. وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُفَ آوَى إِلَيْهِ أخاه, his brother. قال إني أنا أخوك, your brother. See, أنا أخوك, I am your brother. But then Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala uses the same akh somewhere else. Look how beautiful this is. Look, in Surah Al-Qasas. قال سنشد عضدك بأخيك. سنشد عضدك بأخيك. And Allah does this on purpose. Why so? so that you may see the beauty of Arabic, so that you may see the beauty of Arabic, especially in grammar terms, in grammatical terms. You should know that. This is something which I wanted to share with you so that you do not demean and undermine grammar. Without grammar, we will be lost and we wouldn't be able to understand anything, especially when it comes to the sources that we have of this deen. Why do you think the ulama, they differed? Why do you think there was a dispute between the ulama themselves? Why do you think there's been arguments when it comes to fiqh rulings? Majority of the times you find that it is lugha, nothing else. Lugha, nothing else, especially grammatically. Especially grammatically, simply put. You see that there are so many examples, and I don't want to mention them here. Inshallah ta'ala, because it's not the place for it. However, this is what I wanted to show you, how important grammar is, and you should not undermine grammar. You have to know that grammar literally beautifies and completes the language. If there is anything that the scholars have literally worked hard onto providing, it is grammar itself rather than just vocabulary. A student can build on their vocabulary alone, but they need to have the guidance when it comes to grammar so that the Arabic can get better, and then they will be able to understand and open up the doors of the rest of the language, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah grant us understanding and open the doors of knowledge for us.